what's going on, y'all? T-Bob here.
And Jake as well.
And you're about to watch a little OTB LSU.
We're going to give you all the latest, greatest between LSU football, baseball, women's basketball, softball, and everything in between.
Bottom line, if you want to talk Tigers, keep it locked, subscribe, like it, and we hope you enjoy it. We've had this conversation a few times in a few different ways, but now we're getting some names that are starting to enter the portal, and so I think it's worth revisiting. Everybody, okay, we are in a new era of college football, right? The 2024 gene is nearly upon us.
Yep.
There's already been a lot of foundational formation already. Obviously, NIL, we know about that. Transfer portal, we know about that. And they have combined like peanut butter and jelly. They go hand in hand, right? Because people enter the portal, it's free agency, and then you have to come up with money to pay them. We are about to get all the conferences redone. We're about to get everything. A new age, new game. So everybody's trying to, whenever something is this new, it's like we talk about chaos as a ladder, right? The people who handle the chaos better will give themselves the opportunity to climb to heights that they've never been. I would say Ole Miss is kind of an example of this under Lane Kiffin, right? Mm-hmm. Being very forward thinking with the portal. And while it didn't work last year, 2 out of 3 years, it's led him to a 10-2 record and something that Ole Miss had never done before in the regular season and being very good. So that's kind of well, unfortunately, chaos can also mean that it can potentially drive you down, which is a great fear for LSU fans because economically you seem to be falling behind. But these are all, more big picture things. I'm wondering more now, although there's never one pathway to success, you can develop sort of general best practices. And I'm wondering, when it comes to college football roster construction now, is it a best practice? The same way that we have, like a best practice example. We've always said you got to bring a quarterback in every class, right? You're maybe not always going to get the 5-star because one 5-star won't want to sit behind another, but you have to bring a quarterback every single class to manage your numbers, give your, maybe that guy hits, whatever. In that same vein, do you now have to bring in a transfer quarterback with every class?
I think it's starting to trend that way. I don't know if we're fully there yet, T, but I think it's starting to trend that way. And if you look at LSU's quarterback room next year, they would have Garrett Nussmeier, who would be, a veteran quarterback for somebody that's never really been the starter. He certainly has played a lot, been here a long time, and has a lot of faith in his skill set, and the fans have a lot of faith in what he can do. But then behind him, you would have young players that have never stepped on the field. So you would always be one play away from playing someone that's never played. So would you want to bring in whatever the name might be? Somebody that, like what Ole Miss did with Spencer Sanders, somebody that played at Oklahoma State for a long time, never was the best quarterback in his conference, but he was solid. Would you want to bring in someone who is solid? Maybe he pushes Garrett Nussmeier to continue to strive and win that job, but it was probably going to end up being Nussmeier's anyways. But you have this veteran quarterback that if things do go wrong, injuries happen, you would have him to fall back on and not someone who's never played before.
I think that's, so I think you always swing for the fences, right? First off, if there is a free agent superstar out there that you believe in, I'd say you at least kick the tires. Because if he wants to come, if he saw what Burrow did and saw what Jaden did, he wants to come here, hell yeah,
Jaden reached out to LSU.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Yes. So
they weren't really looking. Miles was going to be the quarterback.
So it's okay. So if a superstar ever presents itself, go for it. But if you do believe in your guy like Nussmeier, now again, granted, Georgia believed in Carson Beck to the point where they didn't go after anyone. It's a bit of a different situation because Beck had been there so long. The coaches had a very, and I guess Nuss like this as well. But whatever. Their coaches, and everything I'd heard is that Beck had done really well in spring, really well in practice years before. They had full on belief in him.
And the year before, they went after Caleb Williams.
Yes.
Just, and kind of like you're saying, he was the biggest free agent. They went after him, and when it didn't work out, they're like, okay, well, that's the one shot we were going to shoot.
Yeah, exactly, right? If a true superstar becomes available, you're not doing your due diligence if you're not at least being hey, let's talk. What's up? What's up, boo? What you doing, man? Want to come down here? So I don't know. Okay, let's look at some of the names. Riley Leonard enters the portal.
Yep.
Would he be true superstar status?
If he returns to his 2022 form. This year, he finished 3 touchdown passes, 3 interceptions, another 4 rushing.
Interesting. That was all it was. I know he had injuries and everything else, but that's all it was by the end of the year.
Yeah, it was only in about 5 or 6 games.
Yeah.
You look a couple years ago, 20 touchdown passes, 6 interceptions, 13 touchdowns on the ground. So 33 touchdowns to only 6 turnovers. He's maybe a guy you could look at. Grayson McCall's another guy you could look at. He's been at the lower level at Coastal Carolina, but he's had a lot of success there for 4 years in a row. So, I mean, they're starting caliber guys out there. Tyler Van Dyke's in the portal. Will Howard from Kansas State's in the portal.
Yeah.
Like, they're starting caliber guys in the portal if you don't feel great about Nussmeier. On the other hand,
Blake Shapen from Baylor, who started a ton of games.
From Baylor. There's also quality veteran backups if you do feel good about Nussmeier. Spencer Petras is entering the transfer portal. Ken Seals is in the transfer portal. I mean, Gary Bohannon's in the transfer portal. There's guys out there, swing for the fences with the Cup Topple guys, whether it's Leonard or Grayson McCall, but there's veteran depth there as well if you do want to roll with Nussmeier. So I think there's a good mix of veteran backup and potential starters.
Will Rogers is in there. KJ Jefferson's in there. I guess my question is someone like Riley Leonard or Grayson McCall, I wouldn't put them quite on superstar status. No. They feel like they could maybe, you feel like Nussmeier probably has more potential than them. Do you bring them in to challenge Nussmeier where they may have an advantage in him in the quarterback competition because they have played so much? Or at that point, do you say, well, actually, I would like to see the ceiling of Nuss versus a Leonard or a Van Dyke or a McCall. And then you see if you can get somebody else to be backup, even though, again, like some of those other guys that you mentioned, like Will Howard, or maybe not even Will Howard, some of the names that you mentioned is coming in as a backup, they're going to be hard to land because they're transferring to go play.
Yeah.
Right? So they're going to go group of 5 most
Or even just a Power 5 that's not LSU.
Like, the only way you're really going to sell a guy is if you're saying, hey, you're going to have a chance to come here and start. I wonder. I do wonder if there is a big enough name that you entertain quite yet at this point.
There's not yet. There's not one yet. You've got a lot.
And Riley Leonard's probably going to go to A&M, which I would imagine, right?
Yeah, that would make a lot of sense. And Max Johnson, like we were talking about during the break, he's committed already to North Carolina. I mean, there right now there's a lot of guys
Jefferson?
that have played.
He's not officially in yet.
Yeah, it was reported, and he's like, I don't know.
Let's just play with him as if he is, because this is all hypothetical anyway. Would you go hard after KJ Jefferson?
No,
I would not.
I would not.
Oof.
Not hard.
God,
I may offer and bring him in to compete.
He was damn good when he had a good coordinator. Him and Dan Enos obviously did not mesh. You don't think him and Mike Denbrock could do some good things together with these receivers? Big old giant of a man.
I mean, we'll discuss names as we go, but how can you not be proactive in the transfer market with quarterbacks after what's happened with Jaden Daniels, what happened with Joe Burrow?
I think they will be.
They're fit at LSU.
No, even though they like Nussmeier, still be
exactly.
Active, yeah.
Just like they liked Miles Brennan before Jaden Daniels got here. Like, what they are before is definitely something that needs to be considered, but it's not necessarily what their fit's going to be at LSU, and that ceiling could be much higher.
People keep mentioning Caden Salter. Is Caden Salter in the transfer portal?
Liberty quarterback? I haven't seen it.
I haven't.
I mean, he's like top 5 in every statistic in quarterbacking this year. He's right there with the Nix, Penix, Jaden Daniels trio. But I've not heard anything about him transferring from Liberty and Jamie Chadwell. It'd be a little weird to think about Caden Salter wanting to get out of playing with Jamie Chadwell.
Yeah.
After the jump that he just took with him.
And Grayson McCall's numbers after Jamie Chadwell.
Yeah, exactly. Like his stock definitely took a hit. Emil says regression has hurt the narrative too. Like KJ Jefferson was supposed to be one of the dudes this year and was not. Yeah, that's why it's almost like a good time to get in on the KJ Jefferson stock. If you think that, a little buy low, big potential type of guy. And then look, you bring in, so if you do land one of these guys and you're selling them on, look, I don't think you're selling them on, you're going to be the starter, which it is kind of funny because I would love to be a fly on the wall for how Lane Kiffin recruited Spencer Sanders last year. you know?
Yeah.
Because he obviously didn't believe in Dart. And I would almost guarantee that he was telling Sanders stuff like, we don't love this guy. Like, you'll come in here and we would expect you to start. And then Dart ends up beating it out, and it just is what it is. And so I think I guess you kind of do you talk to quarterbacks in the same way. It's tough to say, but you got to be proactive. You got to be putting feelers out there. And then at the end of the day, I guess again we'll see this develop over the years. But do you have to sign at least one? On that, yeah. I'm not so sure. Like in a few years, will we think of a Carson Beck situation as the exception or the rule?
Probably
right now, it's
the
feeling
exception,
like the exception.
Right?
Yeah.
And you can say, well, Georgia was in a similar situation at LSU. They were in a better situation than LSU because, look, Beck played a lot. Nuss has played a lot. You had Brock Vandegrift, who was a 5-star, who had been on the team multiple years. You had Gunnar Stockton, who was a 5-star, who had been on the team multiple years. They had 3 5-star guys that had been in that program multiple years when Stetson left. It's like they didn't need a transfer maybe as much as LSU did.
And they knew Beck was going to win the job. Everything you heard from the offseason was that Beck was far ahead of those other 2 guys as well. And I guess it is what you're hearing with Nuss, so we'll see. Maybe roll Nuss. But it is kind of crazy that already now we have Riley Leonard, Tyler Van Dyke, Grayson McCall, Will Howard, Will Rogers out there as well, and others all in the transfer portal.
Yeah.
Like Jesse said, the Pirtle season far more exciting in a lot of ways than high school recruiting because high school recruiting are unknowns. You don't know who's going to go boom or bust. Having so much tape on these other guys, they're much more known quantities and therefore more fun to kind of think about and fantasize about.
Well, it could be one of those things where LSU fans are like, you brought in this guy. I don't really know much about him, but he could be a really solid fit. He may not be the big name. Brendan Sorsby, perfect example.
From Indiana, yeah.
Yeah, he's coming off of an injury. He had 57% completion percentage, which isn't great, but 1,600 yards, 15 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, and only about 8 games last year.
Yeah.
So, I mean, a guy like that, you're like, oh, we really like what he can do and bring to the table. Because
you could also theoretically, bring back a young guy.
He was a freshman this year.
Yeah, okay, and it's just almost like a more known high school recruit where you're still expecting Nuss to start, but you're just adding talent behind.
And you could be like, hey, even if you don't beat Nuss out, you got 3 years left. Come here, sit a year, learn our system. You take over after that.
And that's, I'm sure, what Lane sold Walker Howard on.
Exactly.
That same deal.
But yeah, like a guy like a Sorsby, like he's a guy you could bring in.
Although Jackson Dart did announce he's coming back.
I know. No, I know. Yeah, no, I know. It's look, I love it because it helps the quality of the game. Turns out if you're making over $1 million and you're the big man on campus and you're winning and you're dominating because it's college football, it turns out that's way more fun than if you can get the only reason why people needed to jump to the NFL in the past was to get paid.
Yeah.
If you're getting paid now, it's way more fun to chill in college for another year and keep being the man than it is to go and have to deal with look at Derek Carr. And then imagine being a rookie and going through that. Like Bryce Young's having to deal with right now. College is more fun than that. And so that's why you hear Quinn Ewers probably going to return, Carson Beck probably going to return, Jackson Dart already announced he's returning.
And Jackson Dart's pro prospects aren't what they're, right now in college.
Yeah, it's like Bo Nix as well. Why the hell would Bo Nix have ever tried to go to the NFL last year when he's kind of viewed as more of a college type of quarterback? All right, last thing here because we've gone very long here. What are the economics behind this, though, Jake? You had an interesting tweet about the kind of price of a great transfer quarterback right now.
Yeah, so Matt Rule came out, and he said to get a good quarterback, like a starting caliber quarterback out of the transfer portal, it's going to cost you between $1 and $2 million. And then he went on to say really $1.5 to $2 million.
Damn. Okay, so I want to be clear. We can't take that fully as law because Matt Rule, look, they have a very good booster base in Nebraska, and Matt Rule is clearly telling the boosters, look, guys, we turned it over 30 times, okay? You want me to fix this? The best way to do so is to go pay one of these cats to come up here. And granted, that's how Nebraska could end up coming back in this modern era, right? But also he's probably not even if it's not exactly that, I don't think that's hard to believe at all.
His quote was, "Make no mistake that a good quarterback in the portal costs you, $1 million to $1.5 million to $2 million right now, just so we're all on the same page."
Yeah, exactly. He's talking to the boosters.
He went on to say, "Let's make sure we all understand what's happening. There are some teams that have $6 million or $7 million players playing for them."
6 or 7 mil. Jeez. Wow, Jake, what incredible takes.
I mean, those guys, they're just the best.
I think so. And if you think so, again, hit the like button, subscribe, ring the bell so you get notifications when we post every single day here on OTB LSU.